fellow judges. My name is Tayton Fenrick. I'll be your next informative competitor. If everybody's all set to begin. All right, well, my timer is set at all zeros, counting up. Do you mind if I set it on the table? All right, thank you. You don't exist. That's right, you heard me. You don't exist. You're probably a little skeptical, but let me explain. If I were to pick up my timer and throw it at where you think your head is, it would go straight through thin air. You're probably thinking, of course, Tayton, I'm gonna get out of the way. Well, I'm a baseball pitcher. I won't miss. And now you think I'm crazy. But the truth is, my truth is, that you don't exist. I just happen to be in this room talking to the wall. Although in that case, I really might be crazy. So maybe I'm just practicing my speech. Who knows? All I know is you most certainly do not exist. Do you see how ridiculous this sounds? The idea that I could say that you don't exist? What if I sincerely believe it to be true? Well, hopefully the answer to that question is yes, that is ridiculous. Although if you are questioning your own existence, stop reading about Descartes and go poke yourself with a pen. Trust me, it helps. Anyway, now that we've established that you exist, the next natural question is, why am I here? And yes, I know the answer is because I was born. I mean, like in this room, wearing a suit, and actually talking to people. Well, I'm here to tell you about a problem, a disease, if you will, that has infiltrated modern thought and society and is poisoning everyone. And no, I'm not talking about the next pandemic. What I'm talking about is the idea that truth, especially moral truth, is relative. Now, this isn't just a modern problem, but it's become a more pressing issue due to its overall acceptance in modern society. The thing is that a lot of people sincerely hold to this idea, the idea that truth is whatever they want it to be, and if you disagree with them, you're wrong. But of course, it's okay for you to have your own truth, just so long as it can coexist with their truth. The problem with this thinking is that truth is objective. And that's the big idea I want to focus on today. Truth is objective. So join me as we explore the idea of objective truth today. And yes, you do objectively have to join me, because yes, you did objectively take this ballot. The first thing we need to do is explore the idea of subjective truth. Who's arguing for it and why they would want to reject truth. Then we'll look at what truth actually is, the foundation of truth. At the end of the day, we will come to the conclusion that truth is objective. So first, what does it mean to say that truth is subjective? Specifically, what's this idea you might have heard of relativism? Well, according to Oxford Languages, relativism is defined as, quote, the doctrine that knowledge, truth, or morality exist in relation to culture, society, or historical context and are not absolute, end quote. Essentially, what a relativist is saying is that something might be true for you, but not for me. You might think that cheating is wrong, but I don't buy that, so I'm going to do whatever I want. And this isn't some crazy conspiracy theory I had to dig through X to find. There are a lot of really smart, intelligent people who actually believe this. And it's really popular among modern philosophers and college students. One of the most intelligent philosophers, in my opinion, was a man by the name of Friedrich Nietzsche. Now, when I say Nietzsche was intelligent, I do not think that he was right. Nietzsche argued that objective truth, particularly as it relates to ethics, goodness, and beauty, do not exist. He said that ethics was just a construct of society created to keep the powerful from dominating the weak. He said that true morality was whatever the strongest person decided. Might makes right, whoever has the biggest army makes the rules. He declared that God is dead, and with that he justified the destruction of any moral system whatsoever. Still others hold that truth is based upon culture. In his book On Guard, William Lane Craig relates the story of debating a college professor on the issue. An audience member raised the question from the floor about if she would agree that child abuse is wrong. Sadly, she said that it depends on the culture. We have no reason to say that it is actually wrong. Still others hold that truth is based upon your feelings. This is one of the ideas behind the transgenderism movement. Many would say they can be whatever gender they feel like being. It doesn't matter what chromosomes they have, because they believe that truth is inherently subjective. Now, I'd like to spend some time looking at why people would hold to the theory of relativism. At the end of the day, there are always underlying principles and beliefs that people base their opinions on. These foundations are your worldview, and your worldview will shape how you see the world. The foundational belief behind relativism is the belief that God does not exist. Many people do not want to accept the fact that there is a divine creator of the universe. For there to be an objective standard of truth, there has to be an absolute standard upon which to judge upon. If God does not exist, however, there are no absolutes. In the words of theologian Francis Schaeffer, quote, if there are no absolutes by which to judge society, society itself becomes absolute, end quote. Essentially, what Schaeffer is saying is that if God does not exist, truth is based upon cultural norms. And that's the reason I think Nietzsche was so brilliant. He started with the assumption that God is dead, a point on which he is objectively wrong, but he carried that out to its logical conclusion. He was at least logically consistent. Any atheist, however, who holds that there are objective standards of truth is not logically consistent. As the saying goes, you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you start with the assumption that God is dead, the only logically consistent stance is to reject the notion of objective truth. Now, for us as Christians, this might seem like a silly position. You might be asking yourself, why would anyone believe this? The reason why relativism has such an appeal is that it takes away all duty and obligation from the person. The existence of God requires that we act and behave in a certain way as a matter of duty. If God exists, then he deserves our respect. If he is sovereign, then he controls our destiny. If he said, love your enemies, we're required to respect those we dislike. All of these things are things that make people feel uncomfortable. And so they retreat into atheism and relativism because they fear the very existence of our holy, all-powerful, loving God. They do not respect him, and so they flee him into the darkness of this mistaken ideology. However, there's a significant problem with this approach to life. And let me explain it with an example. Suppose my parents told me to do something I didn't want to do. Normally, there are two options going through my mind. Either I will obey them because I love my parents and that's what I ought to do, or I will disobey them and incur punishment. However, what if I invented a completely illogical third option? I deny my parents' existence and convince myself and others that parents don't exist. Clearly, this would be more absurd than to only disobey my parents, because rather than only being disobedient, I'm also lying to myself and anyone I share my opinion with. Similarly, one cannot escape the reality of God's commands simply by claiming he doesn't exist. However, for us as Christians, this is not a problem that is distinct to atheists, and we too fall into the same trap with even less of an excuse. You see, God has told us what the most important commandment is. He has told us how we should act. In Matthew 22, Jesus tells the religious leaders of Jerusalem what the greatest commandment is, saying, quote, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment, end quote. How often have we too denied the Lord the credit he deserves? How often have we disobeyed his word? How often have we hated the people we are called to love? When we do this and justify it, we are denying that there is a holy, all-powerful, loving God who deserves our respect and obedience. Now, I'd like to conclude my speech by looking at what the foundation of objective truth is. Just like a belief in relativism, a belief in objective truth relies on a foundation, and that foundation is God. In John 14:6, Jesus tells us, quote, I am the way, the truth, and the life, end quote. And that's the foundation of objective truth, Jesus Christ. He is not a truth or just my truth. He is the truth. Objective truth is a person. No matter how many times his sheep forget him, the shepherd is there to forgive fallen sinners like you and me. No matter how many times we disobey him, he is there to rescue us. At the end of the day, truth is objective. It would be crazy for me to say that you don't exist just because I want to believe that. But it would be equally as absurd for me to say that truth doesn't exist. But I want to challenge you to consider that a denial of truth is not something that's exclusive to philosophers, college professors, and woke liberals. Assess the areas in your life where you too are denying truth. And remember, no matter how many times you mess up, the one who is objective truth is standing with his arms open, ready to forgive all of us who have told ourselves he doesn't exist. Truth is objective because he is objective truth. Thank you.